I want to reiterate my thanks to all of you for coming. And I just want to run through some global thanks and then make a few observations. First and foremost, Lynn Wadding has been mentioned a number of times today, and I'm going to mention her again. She's the project administrator on this project. She makes sure that we catch the trains. She makes sure we have enough to eat, somewhere to sleep. She makes sure we pay the bills and answer our emails. So thank you, Lynn. You're enormously valued. I'd like to thank Bryony, Olwen, and Emma for really doing all the legwork and putting this together. It reminds me of JFK's quip about the Nobel Peace Prize reception at the White House, saying that never had before been so much intelligence gathered in one room than when Thomas Jefferson dined alone. I want to thank Chloe Fife, who's our RA with massive portfolio in treated spaces, for contributing to various things. And of course, colleagues on the project. It's been fabulous to work with a team with such breadth and capability here. I do want to mention as well to thank Rachel Brady for coming on board in very difficult circumstances. And we have in mind a colleague who isn't here. I'd also like to thank Kate Smith, who is there, and Faye, our colleagues in history, for allowing us to poach on their territory a little bit. They're both extremely brilliant scholars in this field, and we're glad that they're here today. I want to thank the Edgbaston Park Hotel and for Esther for looking after us. And finally, Casey, back in the back, who's been making sure everything runs smoothly. If it hadn't been for him, it would have gone much worse. So I'm going to give myself the editorial 5 minutes to sum up, and I just want to come at this from a slightly different angle than Oliver did, and I don't propose to sum up every possible paper, but I just want to talk about 3 things that emerged from this and sort of situate those in what it was that we were trying to do when we put this together. And it's the idea of the country house as a global crossroad. What we're trying to do at the outset was to really blow up a whole series of sort of schematized and binary ways that people were looking at history, particularly contentious history. It very easily deteriorates into something that ceases to be conceptually valuable because it's so polarized. And particularly when historical positions become set in stone to the degree that they can't be criticized, at that point they become critically worthless and the business of history comes to a stop. I think the genes of this project were probably in the northeastern woodlands when we were working on a project that is still running on British diplomacy with the Iroquois Confederacy. And at Johnson Hall, where Hein and I spent some time recording, we realized that Johnson Hall was a global crossroad. It was a place where all sorts of diplomacy took place. And that Johnson Hall was actually part, even though it was in the northeastern woodlands of the United States, it was an international locale. It was a place where international things happened, where multiple nations came together, not to fight, but to conduct diplomacy. So that was the idea, and we sort of wondered, well, are there other international locales and are country houses among them? So that was the idea. So that's the point 1. Point 2 emerges from the very compelling plant movement argument that was made in what I would say was a very auspicious debut on the conference circuit. And that is to say that when we look at history, we do not attend very well to how movement works, how people move, how things move. This was a paradigm in Atlantic history a couple of years ago, but I think it's something that we need to return to. We need to think about how we theorize movement, what sorts of things move, and then how we illustrate that movement. And in this project, we're using a series of digital animations to show this, how things move. Because these are places through which people and goods and ideas move and continually move. The third thing is layers of meaning. This really comes out in all of the presentations today. That is to say, people make these places into what they want them to be at a particular time, whether it's sticking Roman busts around the place or imagining it as a sort of reconstituted Celtic space or anything in between. And that idea of meaning is, of course, what history is all about. History is a search for meaning and what is significant in different places. But again, meaning can get very easily polarized, and meaning can be contested, and meaning can be seized as a thing of ownership. So what we were trying to do in the project is to, remove asymmetries of power when it comes to devising meaning, and that's the key, I think, point that Oliver is driving at, and Chandrika as well. It's very important for people to see meaning for themselves in these places, because I'm not an aristocrat, so, and I don't have oil paintings on the wall and various other things, but I need to find meaning there. And I think the challenge is to create that. And then the final thing is a Stephen Greenblatt concept of self-fashioning. And there's so much of that going on in everything that we see. Renaissance self-fashioning is the concept. The invention of particular pasts. In fact, the invention of particular presents, and in a very Burkean sense, as Diane showed us, the invention of particular futures. I think what it adds up to, and I think maybe this is my response to the challenge that Oliver poses, is that one thing that the Haudenosaunee, the Six Nations, teach us is that there is very significant power in cultural knowledge. And we tend not to understand what that means anymore. Cultural knowledge is not something that tends to be shared, but the Haudenosaunee's power was in their ability to understand how other cultures work and to understand them in their own terms and to seek a middle ground in dealing with them, not bringing them entirely over to their side and not entirely absorbing their ways. And I think cultural knowledge can be weakened or made solvent by nationalism, but it's really important to do this as a way of moving on from really what is currently, in a lot of places, a serious doubling down on the way that the past is interpreted and owned. It's not merely about being uncomfortable with a particular version of the past. It's simply saying that it probably doesn't exist. And the people that we're looking at in these houses didn't think like that at all. They were extraordinarily polymathic in their approach to the past. And they saw cultural value in all kinds of places, and they didn't see a lot of difficulty in combining it. So that's the kind of key thing that I think publics could be encouraged to see if there's going to be a future and whatnot for country houses. I think it maybe, it's just my reflection on today, might lie in something there. And finally, I want to thank Joy, who, as you can see, asks provocative questions and reminds us of hard truths by reflex. And that is something that historians need to do more often. We need to do it to our own fields. We need to do it in all sorts of ways, because people want to have those gritty debates, and we shouldn't be afraid of historical argument and civil disagreement. It's the only way we move any field forward. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for coming in out of the rain to enjoy today, and to wish you Godspeed on future journeys, and thank you very much.